Morning. Okay. Right when I was about to start, I hit the wrong button. Okay, so where we're at. Caesar, dead. All right. At this point, Caesar's dead. He's been killed by his own senators. What now? Well, okay, I've got a piece of hair. I mentioned these guys last time. We're going to talk a little bit more about them. The first one is this guy right here. There we go. Lepidus. Lepidus was young, but he's Julius Caesar's head cavalry commander. So he's in charge of like all of the horse guys, the guys that ride horses, cavalry. Okay. He's in charge at a young age. I don't remember exactly when he took over, 18 or 19 or something. Now, again, like people were men at an earlier age back then. I get that. But still, he was pretty young. But Lepidus is there. And he's going to be one of the members of what they create called the second Triumvirate. So if you remember, the first Triumvirate was Pompey, Crassus, and Caesar. And basically, the idea is you're supposed to rule all together, all equally. But just having three people, you're never going to have equality there. You're always going to have two people believe one thing, one person believe another, and sides get taken. It's just the nature of the beast. Well, the first triumvirate worked so well, that was sarcasm, that they decided to create a second one. And so Lepidus is one of the members of the second triumvirate. Again, Julius Caesar's head cavalry commander. So think about this. His point of view. Is he going to support the people who killed Caesar? No, not at all. It matters. The next one. Oh boy, Mark Antony. Mark Antony was a general under Julius Caesar. So again, is he going to support the people who killed Caesar? No. On top of that, Mark Antony, Mark Antony in history is often seen as like the ladies' man, the partier, the whatever, okay? Mark Antony is in a relationship with Julius Caesar's sister. She wants like hardcore commitment. He doesn't. But he lives there, like in the house. So basically, it's almost like he's a member of Caesar's family. I mean, he's really not blood or anything, but basically he's a member of Caesar's family. Okay. And that adds a whole nother dynamic with the next guy who's going to be in the second triumvirate. Octavian. Octavian is Julius Caesar's sister's son. So his nephew. Okay. But let me move my head so you can see a statue better. Octavian's father has died. And Caesar adopted him basically because he didn't have sons. And so that way Octavian would get Caesar's inheritance and stuff. Okay. If you think about it though, Mark Antony is in a relationship with Octavian's mother. And he basically like lives there. For the most part, Mark Antony is basically like a stepfather to Octavian. Octavian is still young at this point, okay? Like teenager-ish, but again, I mean, he's basically considered an adult. He's in the military. He's doing his military time. How long do they have to do to be in the military? I'm sorry, to be in the government? 10. So he's doing his military time, okay? He and Mark Antony, they don't get along at all. They got issues. Yet, all three of these men, Julius Caesar's adopted son / nephew, Mark Antony, his head general, plus basically a member of his family, and Lepidus, cavalry commander. These three men, after Caesar is killed, they get together and they're going to form the second triumvirate. Okay? In this situation, senators who are known to have been involved in the Caesar killing, they're going to be rounded up, of course. I mean, this was done in front of everybody at a Senate meeting. Like, people know who was involved, all right? So they're going to be rounded up and stuff. And it's really these three guys who are spearheading that. And that's how they get the support to create this second triumvirate. But y'all, pretty much as soon as it's created, it just falls apart. It's a mess. Officially, Octavian can't be in the government. He hasn't finished his military. They have to be in for 10 years. So he, even though he was like put in to this position, he does have to go and finish his military time. So he's going to go away to do military stuff. Technically, he is in the government, but he's in the military finishing his military time. Lepidus, this one, as the military cavalry commander, he is off doing cavalry commander stuff. So he's also off fighting somewhere, which basically leaves Mark Antony, who was quite a bit older than all the rest of them, to rule Rome by himself. In theory, decisions have to be sent to Lepidus and Octavian to okay like them. Okay, Mark Antony technically can't do it by himself. He has to get the okay from Lepidus and Octavian. But if you're in the middle of battle, are you easily found? No. So Mark Antony definitely takes this time to, effectively rule Rome by himself. And we have a problem at this time. There's major grain shortages. Rome is having like famine issues in Europe, not so much in North Africa. So they're sending as much grain as they can from the North African part of Rome up to like European Rome, but it's not enough. They need more. Mark Antony's idea is to go to Egypt, which is still its own separate kingdom at this point, and see if they can get some grain from there. If you remember in the last video, I forgot something, skipped over it, and I was like, oh, I'll come back to it later. Well, now I'm coming back to it. Whenever Caesar was still alive, just ignore that. Whenever Caesar was still alive, he went to Egypt at one point to get like Egyptian support against Pompey. At the time, the pharaoh is Ptolemy the, millionth, okay? There's so many Ptolemy pharaohs, but it's her little brother, Cleopatra. You've all heard of Cleopatra. Okay, listen, Cleopatra is not Egyptian. Cleopatra is Greek. Go back to your Alexander the Great stuff. When Alexander took over Greece and then he died, remember they like kind of separated up the empire. And we had people that are Greek basically taking over Egypt. She's Greek. That being said, her brother is now the pharaoh. And whenever their father died, they were supposed to, because they're young, okay? They're like young teenagers. Like the pharaoh Ptolemy was like maybe 10, maybe even younger. She was, I don't remember the years, but maybe 14ish, okay? Young teenagers, not old teenagers, like 18. The father, before he died, wanted both of them to rule together. Well, her brother is like, no. So now there's like power struggles in Egypt whenever Caesar shows up to get like support with Pompey. Basically, she and her brother are in a civil war. Okay. Caesar chooses to side with her, and Ptolemy ends up dead, and she takes over as pharaoh. While Caesar's there, he just has a little something with her, and she has a son. That may or may not have been Caesar's. She says it's Caesar's. His name was Caesarion. Um, but regardless, she's now the pharaoh. There are ties to Rome already because of Julius Caesar. And little Caesarion, that kid, I mean, we don't know if it was Caesar's or, if it was Bob's, okay? And she passed it off as Caesar's. It doesn't matter. The point is, people believed that that kid was Caesar's, okay? So already, like I said, Egypt has some ties to Rome. Mark Antony wants to make a deal with Egypt because they're not having grain shortages. In fact, they're having grain surpluses. So he's like, if we can get grain from Egypt, cool. Here's the problem. When Mark Antony goes to Egypt to make this deal with Cleopatra, he decides, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. And I guess I should point out these two statues. We don't really know what Cleopatra looked like. She's said to have been so beautiful. Who knows? Who cares? But this statue over here is an Egyptian style statue of her. It's how the Egyptians would have done her. This is a Greek style statue. Well, probably Roman at the time, but it doesn't matter. So you have like the Greek Roman idea of her and the Egyptian idea of her. That being said, Mark Antony gets there and he's like, whoa, this girl is. And so Mark Antony, being the ladies' man that he is, he likes her. Which is a problem because Mark Antony has just recently been married. Remember who he was with? His mom? Yeah, he didn't marry his mom. Mark Antony, all of a sudden, declares that he's going to marry his sister, Octavian's sister. Her name was Octavia. Like, I don't know. I just feel like, mom, have a little bit more creativity with your kids' names. Octavia, Octavian, whatever. But, okay, now think about this. Mark Antony is dating mom. And then all of a sudden he decides to marry daughter. Now it's not his daughter, so don't freak out, but still. So now he's married to Octavia. The whole family, it's like this big drama, right? But now he's skedaddled off to Egypt and has this, I don't know, whatever with Cleopatra. Octavian? Octavian hates Mark Antony. Hates him. It's not even just a, ugh, I don't like him. No, it's a hates him. There's a lot of issues between Mark Antony and Octavian. So much so that eventually, whenever all of them get back together again, Lepidus and Octavian come back from the military, they're all back in Rome together. The infighting between Mark Antony and Octavian is so much, and there's so much other drama happening that Lepidus is like, man, this is not what I wanted. This is not what I asked for. I'm a military man. I don't want to be in the government. Lepidus, okay, I know you just had a heart attack because there's so much to write here. I'll put my head down here and then I'll move it in a minute. Lepidus ends up resigning from the Triumvirate. We talked about this last time. Triumvirate. Three. Well, now there's two. Shouldn't they replace Lepidus? Yeah. They don't. Why? I don't know. I don't know if they planned on it and just never did. I don't know. Okay. I don't know. But Lepidus is not replaced. Again, the infighting between Octavian and Mark Antony is like boiling over. It is crazy. Rome is kind of not being, I don't know, ruled well, I guess. We are trading some grain with Greece. Oh, I'm sorry, with Egypt, but we still are having famines. Things are not good. The economy is not good. There are still like protests and some, not riots like we had last time, but some protests and little riots in the city of Rome. Like we're just having issues. Cleopatra claims that she's pregnant with one of Mark Antony's kids. And so Mark Antony moves to Egypt to be with her and his kid. And they'll end up having, I don't remember, 2 or 3 kids. I don't know if it's 2 or 3. I feel like they have 2 and then she has cesarean already. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But they will end up having a few kids. Mark Antony moves to Egypt. I'm going to move my head up here now, okay? Mark Antony moves to Egypt and is trying to rule Rome from Egypt. From Cleopatra's point of view, she's kind of, I don't know, hoping for some kind of union, some kind of marriage to Mark Antony, some kind of union, so that Egypt doesn't get taken over, but it gets some kind of alliance or maybe even joined with Rome. Not taken over. She wants to keep some autonomy. She wants to keep some leadership position in Egypt. Okay. And she's thinking, okay, if I can make alliances with Caesar or Mark Antony or whatever, then we can do that. Mark Antony just never goes back to Rome. And there's all these like rumors he does or he doesn't. I've heard both sides become addicted to some of the, I don't know, stuff that they were smoking. I don't know, whatever. Okay. Regardless, it doesn't matter. But Octavian basically attacks Egypt. The people start to hate Rome. They see Cleopatra as this foreign, who's using her witchcraft to possess Mark Antony and make him leave Rome. And so we're going to get her. So Octavian and the military go to attack Rome. No, go to attack Egypt. And then there's all these different stories. Some stories say that, okay, all these different stories. Okay, hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself. Mark Antony will eventually realize that, oh my gosh, I've dishonored myself. I've done bad things, whatever. As a Roman, I didn't behave the way that I should. And stories say that he falls on his sword. Remember, I told you about that in class. Where's my gladius? It's over there. But I showed you with the gladius what that means. Once he falls on his sword and he commits suicide. This is where the different stories start. Cleopatra will commit suicide too, but some stories say she drank poison. Some stories say she laid on a bed of asps, A-S-P-S. It's a type of snake, and she just let him bite her. That's the romantic version. She probably just drank poison. Some stories say that whenever the Romans came into the area, she was still alive and she was like retching and stuff, and she died then. It doesn't matter. The point is, they both died. Where are the kids? I've told you before, if you're going to get rid of a king or queen, like Cleopatra, queen, you better kill all the kids, because the kids do have future claim. If we don't kill those kids and they suddenly come back and they're like, I'm the son of so-and-so, they have future claim to Egypt. So the kids, the story is that Cleopatra sent the kids away with like a nanny or a slave or something. Okay. They will eventually get caught. They will eventually be found. They will be killed. I don't know how old they were, but you have to do that. Again, in class, I always have kids that are like, that's so awful. Octavian, he killed the kids. You have to, because Octavian is basically taking over Egypt. Queen is dead. You can't call Mark Antony the king of Egypt, but the leadership is dead. Rome now owns Egypt. Way to go. And now Octavian is the only ruler in the Triumvirate. Do we have a Triumvirate? No. So now that we've just taken over Egypt, Lepidus has left and resigned. He's doing his thing. We now have Mark Antony, who's killed himself. Octavian's the only person. What are we going to do now? He just declares himself emperor. No big deal. And that is where we will start next. Auf Wiedersehen.